Well, this is going to be fun. I want you all to meet Jerry Hickey, pharmacist, nutritionist, right up in living color. And even though you have to wait until Wednesday, January the 14th, and Thursday, January the 15th to meet him, I am very excited about having a conversation with him because it's kind of rare that we find someone that's been in this business for so long who has such beautiful credentials, smart, and he's very enthusiastic. So thanks for joining us today, Jerry.
Oh, Anita, it's my pleasure, and I have to tell you, I've been looking at your magazines, the Boomer Times Senior Life magazine. They're very high quality.
Well, thank you, and I hear the same about you.
Well, thanks. Hey, there we go.
All right, so we're off, and I thought we might want to talk a little bit about your company, the Invite Vitamins, which we have one. They're across the country, but we have one in Boca Raton. And so why should people go into Invite Vitamins?
Okay, well, actually, it's Invite Health. Invite Vitamins would be too direct and would actually tell people what we do.
Sorry.
But anyway, what we do at Invite Health, we source ingredients that have been used in human clinical trials. And then we take that ingredient and we get licensing agreements with the raw material supplier that's paying for all these studies. These studies are exceedingly exorbitantly expensive. You know, it might cost $1 million for a high-quality study. And we get permission to manufacture with their raw material. So we've been doing this for a few decades now. I actually started my original nutrition company in 1987, at the end of June 1987, with my chain of pharmacies. And now we've morphed into Invite Health. And we actually get these really high-quality ingredients that are being studied at leading academic research institutions, and they're getting good results. And we're putting these together in our supplements, and we also are seeing the results. And what happens when a very high-quality academic research institution uses an ingredient, they're going to pick an ingredient that's consistently clean and high quality and dependable, because they don't want anything to mar their study or their results. There's too much involved with research. So that's what's been working out in our favor, and we've really stamped our impression in New York and New Jersey and the Northeast. We're in Florida now. We want to expand further in Florida, and we're having a great time doing it, quite honestly. I do an awful lot of radio, by the way. I do it throughout the country. And I love doing radio, but isn't it a nice, warm medium?
Yes, but you do have a nice, warm voice, and that helps, too. So I'm very glad, though, that you said what you just said about having all the trials and having clinical trials and having people research, because something that you said earlier before we were on the air is true, that many times a vitamin, you look at something and being trustworthy, you're trusting, you see that it's what you hope it is, and yet when you take it, it's not really what it is, and there's no way that the public can really do anything about it.
Yeah, fortunately, the FDA has been cleaning that up. The FDA has strong oversight over the nutrition world, just like they do over cosmetics, just like they do over food, and just like they do over drugs. And what's been happening is over the past decade or two, they've been closing down manufacturers that are problems. And now we're not a big company. We're a small privately held company. We don't pay for this research. Like I said before, I just want to make this clear. That research is extremely expensive to conduct. The raw material suppliers pay for the research. Then we get, because we have a good reputation, because we have credibility, because we have a lot of people with credentials working within our company, they're very happy to work with us, and we get the licensing to market their products. So that's the deal. For instance, a probiotic, okay? Let me just give you a really good example. Now, you deal with a lot of people in their 50s and 60s and 70s with your radio and your magazines, et cetera. Am I correct?
Perfect. Yes, that's our target market.
Okay. Well, in those people, the complexion of the bacteria in their intestines has already changed for the worse. So normally you have about 2 pounds of bacteria living in your intestines. Some of them are very dangerous, and a lot of them are very health-promoting, okay? And normally there's sufficient health-promoting bacteria to keep the bad bacteria under control, to keep them in check. Now, if something kills off the friendly bacteria, then the bad ones start to increase in number, they thrive, and they lead to real problems with your health. And we're finding now that in older people, okay, in middle-aged to older people, the balance of the bacteria shifts. And this is unfortunate. First of all, about 70%, that's what they say, about 70% of your immune system either starts out or exists in your digestive tract. So maybe it's 68%, maybe it's 72%, what have you. But a lot of cells for the immune system, like Caltech is arguably the most difficult university in the world. That's where the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab is. Recently, they've proven that the healthy bacteria in your intestines create certain immune cells, and these immune cells that are created in the lining of your intestines and the luminal tissue, they then migrate throughout your body. So you'll wind up like, for instance, a woman will wind up with these bacteria in her vaginal tissue, and she'll wind up with these bacteria in her milk ducts. And later on, when she breastfeeds the baby, the healthy bacteria help that child so they don't become intolerant to certain foods. They help develop the digestive tract of that baby and give that baby some immunity until that baby can create its own white blood cells. So it's very important at all parts of your life, at all times in your life, to have the healthy bacteria. So we're finding increasingly that the bad bacteria start to thrive as you grow older. And this is one of the reasons, and possibly a major reason, why your immune system starts to fail you. It's harder to fight off a flu virus or a pneumonia bacteria, and why you become increasingly inflamed. It's because there's a greater preponderance of the unfriendly bacteria. And this actually greatly accelerates aging. So simply by the fact of being in your 50s, 60s, or older, you need healthy bacteria. Other factors kill off these bacteria too. For instance, eating a lot of junk food and not eating fruits and vegetables. The reason for that is these bacteria get their own food supply out of the fiber in fruits and vegetables. So if you eat a junk diet, if you gain a big belly, if you drink a lot of alcohol, if you smoke cigarettes, if just by virtue of being older, and of course a major reason for losing your friendly bacteria is using an antibiotic. And what happens? I mean, I've had friends, this has happened to their parents. You take an antibiotic such as ciprofloxacin for some kind of tissue infection. It kills off your friendly bacteria, and then a bacterium called Clostridium difficile takes hold, and it leads to collagenous colitis, and that's a very dangerous thing, and it leads to persistent diarrhea, and it's a very tenacious bacteria that it's hard to get rid of. When you take the probiotic healthy bacteria with the antibiotics, or if you have a C. difficile infection, it helps protect you and gets rid of the diarrhea and the inflammation, etc. But what I was leading to is, if you look at a lot of the bottles of the probiotics, it says like 2 billion bacteria. So what's the problem with that? It really needs to say colony-forming units. If it says 2 billion bacteria or 5 billion bacteria or 10 billion bacteria, that's because they don't necessarily expect those bacteria to even be alive in a bottle or thrive in the intestines and start to colonize. Because your stomach acids and your small intestinal enzymes are very hostile to the bacteria. So when you buy a probiotic product, you want to see CFU, which means colony-forming units, which means the bacteria are expected to be alive and thrive and colonize the intestines. Otherwise, so that's the kind of thing we do. We search out technology that allows, there's a vegetable technology called microbac that coats the bacteria in their own housing. They kind of go into a dormant stage. They come alive again in the small intestine after you swallow them, and they start to colonize and they start to kill off the unfriendly bacteria. So these are important aspects as far as technology and as far as promoting health. And it's also important for your listening audience to understand these things. So when you go and buy a probiotic, it's not as simple as getting a bottle. It has to say colony-forming units.
So
okay?
in other words, that's excellent information. As long as I've been doing this, I've really never heard that. I've talked with people about probiotics. So are you now saying that if you buy the right probiotic, everyone should be taking a probiotic no matter what, if they have any problems or not?
Okay. The University of Reading over in England, in the UK, we say the UK nowadays, they did a study on senior citizens. And they gave them one of the cultures in my product. There's 5 different cultures. It's called Lactobacillus animalis, okay? Lactobacillus bifidus animalis. When they gave them that bacteria, within 3 weeks, their immune system was much stronger and more efficient, and inflammation had actually decreased in their body. So I think for older people, it's a must. I think for people who are overweight and have a big belly, it's a must. Anybody on antibiotics, it's a must. But when they've done studies even on little kids, when they give them probiotics, they decrease the number of throat infections. Like they take kids who are thrown to strep infections and viral infections of the throat. And when they give them probiotics over the winter, it cuts down the number of throat infections by 80%. I mean, that's pretty darn dynamic.
It is.
And when they give adults and when they give the elderly probiotics, it cuts down the number of cold and flu symptom days by about 33%. So there really is a lot to it. It really does promote good health.
It's astounding.
But normally, thank you. Normally, okay, let's talk about diet, right? You probably had guests on that said, okay, drink green tea and eat your cocoa or some dark chocolate, or eat your broccoli, or take your flax seeds and your whole wheat. All of those foods have to interact with the healthy bacteria to release the molecules that are good for your brain, that lower the risk of cancer, that protect your heart, that impart good health. So a lot of the good foods, even though like good food might be the gateway to great health, like a Mediterranean-type diet, let's say, okay, or a DASH diet or something along that line, the truth of the matter is, without the probiotics, that diet is not as effective because the probiotic bacteria actually break the foods down. They're kind of like the rate-limiting factor. You chew your food, you're releasing saliva to break the food down further and to kill off some of the bacteria. Then it goes into your stomach and you're releasing acids to break it down further, and it gets into this thick goop called chyme. And that slowly but surely, is released into your small intestine, where you release enzymes to further break it down. You don't break it down all the way unless you have the healthy bacteria in your intestines. They then release very important molecules. Excuse me, I have to take a sip of my green tea.
Yeah, I'm actually mesmerized by what you're saying, and that's, so you take your drink, and I just want to say that. Let me tell everybody who I'm talking with. His name is Jerry Hickey. He is a pharmacist, nutritionist who has an organization called Invite Health. It's located at 2621 North Federal Highway, and that's Suite E. You'll see it. It's right here in Boca Raton. If you want more information, and I think you ought to call them, because I really hope you'll go to this Wednesday, January 14th, Thursday, January 15th, to the seminar they're going to be having all day with Jerry being here. But the phone number there is 561-367-8646, 367-8646. And if you miss meeting Jerry, he'll be back, but you can go ahead and meet Nicole Crane, who is a nutritionist scientist there. So keep going, though. I'm going to go over. Let me say this when I see you. I'm going over to buy some probiotics because I don't take them.
It's one of the best things you could take, especially in the winter. So when you take the probiotics, it breaks down all these foods and releases very tiny molecules. I'll give you a couple of for instances. It releases molecules that are really tiny that go to the brain and make the brain feel happier and healthier. That's why they're connecting healthy bacteria with a good mood and less anxiety, less depression. It's a very complex conversation. We certainly don't have the time right now, maybe not even a format, but it's really an interesting thing. But secondly, you release things that control your appetite. For instance, when you eat fruits and vegetables, okay, the bacteria release something called propionic acid, which only lasts for a flash. But propionic acid sends a message through your vagus nerve. The vagus nerve, the vagal nerve, means the wanderer. It wanders from your digestive tract to your heart and up to your brain. When you have the healthy bacteria, they release something called propionic acid that indirectly through the digestive tract sends a signal that you're satiated, that you're not hungry. So when you lack the healthy bacteria, you tend to be hungrier. But they do a second thing, too. When you eat fruits and vegetables, there's a really tiny molecule locked up in the fiber from the fruits and vegetables called acetate molecule, acetate ion. The healthy bacteria are needed to complete the digestive process and release acetate. Acetate it's a tiny molecule that goes directly to your brain and said, okay, you're full now, stop eating. We're done. You've got enough energy. So when you lack the healthy bacteria, you wind up hungry. So it becomes something of a catch-22. And generically for the probiotic bacteria, they help reduce gassiness and bloating. They help get rid of diarrhea and constipation, especially diarrhea that's associated with lactose intolerance or diarrhea that's associated strongly with the use of antibiotics. And they also help make you regular. A lot of people that when they go on probiotics, they don't need a laxative anymore. They don't need a stool softener. And I have to tell you something. If it's a really good probiotic, you should actually feel something. You should feel your digestive tract changing. You should experience a change over the course of a couple of weeks. Okay? So that's just one thing. That's just one of the things we do with technology and bringing products with real human clinical trials behind them to the market. That's the kind of thing we're trying to achieve. Okay? And we have. We're pretty successful at it.
In this last almost, I guess, 25 minutes or so, I have learned more about something that I have heard so much about, and I have never had such a wonderful explanation of what it is. It is causing me to go there and buy it, even though I think I'm in pretty good health and I'm much older than you, but I'm definitely going to do that. Now, we haven't had a chance to talk about strong and flexible bones, something that's extremely important in this age target market that we deal with, because we don't want people to fall. We want them to be strong. And so maybe we can get into it a little bit. And if we run out of time, we'll do it at our next interview.
Well, there's a couple of facets you have to look at with bone health. First of all, people don't realize it, but bones have to be slightly flexible. In other words, if you build a suspension bridge across a river, okay, that bridge has to give a little bit in the wind, otherwise that bridge is going to break. It's really the same thing with bone. Bone has to have a little bit of, it's not supposed to be totally rigid like a piece of cement. So in other words, if you fall, God forbid you fall off the curb and you hit your hip on the side of the curb, you don't break your hip because it has a little bit of give. So collagen is actually responsible for that. So we all think of, like, we have a bone food product, right, which is an intelligent product that has the calcium, the magnesium, the vitamin D. That's really only half the process of building bone. Your bone starts out with thousands and thousands of highly organized cables made out of collagen. And then different nutrients interact with the collagen and turn it into bone. For instance, vitamin K, vitamin D, and the mineral silica, small amount of silica, interact with that collagen and make docking sites for calcium and all the other minerals that then crystallize it into bone. So 90% of the organic matter in your bone is actually made out of collagen. So I tell people repeatedly on my radio programs and when I do writing, et cetera, or lecturing, that if you want to build bone, a very important component that people really don't know about is collagen. In fact, the University of Florida, Gainesville, has recently released 2 studies, which I didn't even think about this before the show. They released 2 studies. In fact, I didn't know we were talking about this. They released 2 studies. When you gave people calcium and vitamin D, yes, it had a good effect on bone. But it really didn't affect bone exceedingly well until collagen became part of the answer. And in fact, the University of Illinois College of Medicine over in Chicago and a couple of other, Case Western University, they've all said, listen, collagen is a really important component of building bone. In fact, when you go to your doctor and they test to see if you're losing bone, they take a urine sample. They're not looking for the amount of calcium in the urine. They're looking at breakdown components of collagen. Because if there's a lot of them, that means you're currently losing bone. So collagen is actually a really important part of building the structure of bone and giving bone some resilience and some ability to withstand an impact. So that's an important thing that I want to get across. It's not just calcium and vitamin D. You also need that collagen aspect. And it's not the same collagen that you build your joint with. It's really more type 1, type 3 collagen. And by the way, that same collagen, that makes your skin. About 70% of your skin is made out of collagen. There's underlying sheets of collagen, and then a long-chain sugar, thousands of sugars grouped together called hyaluronic acid attached to the collagen, and that's really what your skin is. So as you grow old, every 29 days when you look in the mirror, you have a completely new face. So why does the skin of a 30-year-old look so different than the skin of a 70-year-old?
Yeah,
because the 70-year-old is because you're not making collagen.
Ah.
So you can't stretch the skin out. You can't fill in the nooks and crannies. For instance, our collagen, we have a collagen HX powder. It's been used in about 8 human clinical trials for skin health, and they've seen that the number of wrinkles literally decreases by about 55% just by swallowing collagen. But it's a real effect. It's not cosmetic. When you put on cosmetic, it's just like putting a coating on that hides something. This is actually developing beauty from the inside out. But your nails and your hair, they're similar tissues to your skin. They're related. When you do the collagen, your nails don't break. They start to grow again. Your hair looks thicker because each strand of hair starts to thin with age. Every single strand is about 10 or 20% thinner. When you take the collagen, you're building hair again. So it's not just your bones and your joints that are benefiting. About 67% of the cartilage in your joint, that's hard rubbery stuff on the end of your bone, that's the stuff that when it flakes away, you have bone on bone. You need like a hip replacement or a knee replacement. Your cartilage and your joints made out of collagen. Your bones made out of collagen, but so is your skin, hair, and nails. Even the discs in your spine, like in between your spinal vertebrae, the bones that surround your nerves and your spine, those cushions are largely collagen mixed with fiber. And the two meniscus under each knee, that they're shock absorbing, they hold your knee in place. If they get damaged within a year, you're developing arthritis in that knee. They're made out of collagen. Now, here's the problem. Collagen production starts to slow at the rate of about 1.5% per year right after you finish growing and developing. So at the age of 25, the cruelness of it is you start to create less collagen. You become less efficient. So by the time you're 50 or 60, you're creating dramatically less collagen. So your bones, how are you going to build strong bones? How are you going to heal and maintain your joints? No wonder your hair, your skin, and your nails is looking different. You're getting discolorations like liver spots, which we technically call lipofuscin. So all of these things are literally addressed by taking collagen. So there are certain supplements it really becomes important for adding to your lifestyle as you grow older. You really have to replace them if you want to maintain good looks, but really, more importantly, great health. There really are some astonishingly important nutrients to put back into your lifestyle.
I've just been sitting here mesmerized by all your information. Have you written any books?
It's too, for me, it's too isolated. I'm a people person.
I know, I read but your information, Jerry, is so good. I haven't read this kind of stuff, and maybe we need to talk about that, or at least you ought to write columns for us in our magazine, because this is wonderful news.
Because of where you are, and I've got a lot of clients down there. See, one of the beauty, I'm going to Boca Raton to my store, my Invite Health location. By the way, it's right near V&S Deli. It's right near that dive center.
Oh, yeah, I know where it is. Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's right there.
Well, our office is at 1515 North Federal, so it's just up the street, and I'm definitely going to stop in there. I'm definitely going to meet you, but you are so much more than just the radio show. I can just tell you that.
Well, I have to tell you, I had Hickey Chemist in New York City that I opened up in 1978. And, 1987, I'm sorry. I got my license in 79. I opened my store in 87. And I still have clients that deal with me, many who have relocated to places like Fort Lauderdale and Boca Raton, and when I go down there, I see people literally that I knew 30, 40 years ago.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure that they're in good health, and I can hear why from you now, just listening to you, I can see why they are believers.
Well, thank you. Can I give one quick tip?
Please.
Right now, the flu immunization is not a perfect fit with the flu that seems to be infecting everybody up here in the Northeast and in Canada, et cetera. And that could change tomorrow. You know how it is with the flu. You never know which one's coming down the pipe. Now, when you grow older, your immune system doesn't react well to the flu shot, and that you're not as efficient in creating enough antibodies. So you don't get as much protection from the flu shot as you think you would. If they drink green tea, it weakens the flu virus. In fact, University of Florida, Gainesville, your Gators over there, they actually did a study with green tea capsules, concentrated green tea capsules. They gave it to people in their 20s, 40s, 50s, 70s, 80s. When they did throughout the winter, it cut down the number of infections by a third, both flu and cold, upper respiratory tract infections. So a good tip for the listening audience now, because we're I don't know how it is in Florida, but right now in New York, we're pretty much going towards peak flu season.
Yep.
I'm telling all the people that listen to me on the radio, drink your green tea. Make sure it's organic, because they put a lot of pesticides in green tea. Get an organic green tea and rinse it around your mouth and gargle and swallow it, and do that twice a day. Make sure it's really concentrated.
But you said there's green tea powder too?
Oh, yeah. Like we have a green tea capsule that's very similar to the one used in the University of Gainesville study, for where you swallow a capsule twice a day. And there's a lot of data on green tea blocking the flu. Okay? There's studies on children. There's studies on healthcare professionals. There's studies on people in nursing homes. There's studies on elderly people. There's all kinds of studies. And in general, just doing green tea in older people strongly improves the benefits of flu immunization. Especially this year, it becomes more important because there's a swine flu that's a variant that's not really covered by the immunization. Now, the immunization does work as a booster shot. It does kind of wake up the immune system, and you do have some level of protection, but not that great. So doing the green tea a couple of times a day, don't burn your mouth. Don't add milk to it. It takes away from the mojo of the green tea. It just will not work as well, and it's not going to protect you. It doesn't like the bad breath bacteria. People who do a lot of green tea, they have more of their original teeth, and they're more solidly anchored in their mouth. That's the truth. But the green tea, and a lot of stuff, and I know I've exceeded my time, and I apologize.
Yeah, you're just, right now, that's right, they're cutting me off with you. Can I save all this for our next interview? And
you got it.
We've got the message, and really, I will meet you Thursday or Wednesday on the 14th, 15th there at Invite Health. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are everything they said you were going to be.
Well, thank you. And what I'm doing in the store, I'm going down there to see people. So if somebody wants to come by, bring in a list of the drugs you're taking, try to bring in your blood test, your urine test, and I'll take a look at it and give you some guidance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jerry.
Been a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye, Anita.